They were two princes, two brothers, two warriors bleeding for the same kingdom, because one of those brothers became the most beloved king in Eternia, and the other became Skeletor. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, Skeletor is unforgettable. That high-pitched laugh, the Lord of Destruction, the skull-faced monster who only wanted power. But what nobody ever told you about Skeletor is that before the skull, before the staff, he had a name. And that name was Keldor. And Keldor was the rightful king of Eternia. This story doesn't begin with a villain. It begins with a war. A bard sings to children and soldiers in the streets of Eternia. His song tells of two princes, sons of King Miro, who fought together against tyrants to defend their land. Their names were Randor and Keldor, brothers, warriors, heroes. They fought side by side through what the comics call the Great Unrest, a war that shook the entire planet. They bled for Eternia. They sacrificed for it. And their father, King Miro, paid the ultimate price. He was banished, imprisoned, lost. The bard's song carries a warning inside it, but no matter how brave, no matter how great, the ending to this tale is sad. He wasn't wrong. With King Miro gone, the crown passed to the firstborn son. His name was Keldor, and here is what almost nobody knows. Keldor was King Miro's son by a woman of the Gar race, blue skin, a race that Eternia had feared and despised for generations. When Randor announced to the people that his brother, the firstborn, the rightful heir, would take the throne, the crowd erupted. I won't bow to a blue skin. Murderers, thieves. These weren't enemies. These were Eternia's own citizens, the people Keldor had just finished fighting for. Randor tried to defend him. We cannot judge an entire race for the crimes of their ancestors. My brother fought bravely for this land. He is the firstborn heir. It didn't matter. Pay close attention, because this is where things get complicated. Randor asked his mother, the queen, to bring Keldor forward, to show the people his nobility, to let them see the man, not the skin. And in that moment, something went wrong. There was an accident. The queen fell. Keldor knelt over her, blood on the palace floor, his voice shaking. My brother. I turned, and it was an accident. The crowd had their confirmation. The Gar traitor killed the queen. And Randor, the same Randor who called him the firstborn heir before the throne, did not defend him before the people. I have no choice, brother. The people will want your life. I will always love you. Those are the words Keldor heard as he was banished from the palace. The brother who fought alongside him in the war was now sending him into the wasteland. But this is where the story takes its darkest turn. Keldor walked away from the only home he had ever known. And as he disappeared into the wastelands of Eternia, with nothing but a panther at his side, he said something that should have stopped the world cold. You have denied me my crown, Randor, but I will unite my people. One language, one race, one planet. I will rule my Eternia. Read that again. This wasn't conquest for the sake of domination. This wasn't hatred without cause. He wanted to unite Eternia, a planet divided by race, by fear, by centuries of mistrust. He had just seen with his own eyes what that division cost. He wasn't wrong about what Eternia was. He wasn't wrong about what needed to change. The method he would choose, that's a different story. Alone, wandering, without purpose. The comics describe him as an outcast, drifting through Eternia's wastelands. And then something found him. A figure made of fire, a voice in the dark. You have suffered great loss, Keldor, and you have such great potential. The entity introduced itself by the name of Kur. It spoke Keldor's language, not the language of kingdoms and crowns, the language of betrayal. I, too, know what it is to be betrayed by your own kin. Kur promised something no one had ever offered him before: power and a path back to the throne. In exchange for one thing, loyalty. Keldor swore, and the transformation began. What followed were years of training. Keldor mastered the ancient magic of Eternia, the secret energies that flow from the planet's core, the star seed at the center of the world. But Kur told him the truth that mattered most. Without an amplifier, an object touched by Eternia's star seed, his powers would always be limited. He pointed Keldor toward the lost city of Zalesia. There, Keldor found a guardian, a warrior who wielded the Havoc Staff, an ancient weapon of immense power, touched by Eternia's deepest magic. They fought, and in the middle of the battle, the Guardian saw something, a vision of Keldor with a woman and a child, a life that could have existed, a family that Eternia never allowed to be. It cannot be, the Guardian said. The Guardian bloodline must continue. You will never return to my city. The staff is yours." Keldor took the Havoc Staff, and he looked back at Eternia. And so is Eternia. He returned to Kur, but this time was different. Keldor had discovered who Kur really was. His true name was Hordak, and Keldor no longer needed a mentor, no longer needed a master. He turned the Havoc Staff against the one who had trained him. "Lord of the Havoc Staff, and Lord of my own destiny, I know who you are, Hordak." Hordak screamed. Keldor walked away. And then he did something the cartoon never once showed you. Keldor crossed Eternia, gathering the outcasts, prisoners, exiles, the forgotten. He broke open prison walls and extended his hand. "Join me, and we will take back Eternia for all free men." That is not the language of a lord of destruction. That is the language of a revolutionary. Keldor wasn't leading an invasion. He was leading a revolt. The same revolt that any oppressed people have ever raised against a system that denied them. But the revolt failed. The final battle against Randor, and in the middle of the armies, Randor cried out, "It didn't have to be like this, brother." And Randor was right, it didn't. But the choice of how it could have been different didn't belong to Keldor. It belonged to Eternia, and Eternia had already made its choice. Keldor was cornered, wounded, and in desperation, he went back to the only force that still wanted him, Hordak. And the price of that rescue was his own identity. Hordak healed Keldor, but healed by consuming, merged him with an extra-dimensional demon. Keldor ceased to exist, and what remained was Skeletor, confined to the Dark Hemisphere. And this is where the story gets worse, because after all of that, Randor spent years searching for his lost brother. In 1986, Mattel published a mini-comic called The Search for Keldor. In it, Randor tried, once a year, when the veil between dimensions thinned, to look into the past and find Keldor. Skeletor fights with everything he has to stop that search, because the secret of Keldor, in Skeletor's own words, could destroy me. Think about what that means. This isn't the secret of a monster protecting a lie. This is the secret of a man who cannot bear to be seen. Skeletor was right about Eternia. The ruling class was corrupt. They denied a birthright because of race. But Skeletor was wrong about the cure. He made a pact with a warlord. He became the skull-faced monster. The man who was Keldor still exists somewhere inside that skull. Skeletor wasn't born from nothing. He was built piece by piece by a world that decided what he was before he ever had the chance to prove otherwise. A world that called itself good. This is the tragedy the cartoon never told you. Not a monster who was always a monster. A firstborn son, a decorated soldier, a man with a genuine grievance against a world that failed him, who made the worst possible choice in response to that failure. The question that divides people every single time is this: if Eternia had given Keldor the crown, would Skeletor have ever existed? Leave your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this video made you see Skeletor differently, share it with someone who grew up watching He-Man. And if you want to dive into the secrets of Castle Grayskull, subscribe to the channel, because the next video reveals what TV never showed you about what's inside that castle. See you next time.